And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel, saying, These are the animals which you shall eat from all of the animals upon the earth, every animal being cloven hoof and cloven-footed, clawing with 2 claws, and taken up chewing the cud among the animals, these you shall eat. Except from these you shall not eat, of the ones taking up chewing the cud, and of the ones not being cloven of the hoofs and clawing cloven-footed, the camel, for this one takes up chewing the cud, and the hoof is not cloven. This one is unclean to you. And the hare, for this one takes up chewing the cud, and its hoof is not cloven. This one is unclean to you. And the hyrax, for this one does not take up chewing the cud, and the hoof is not cloven. This one is unclean to you. And the pig, for this one is cloven of hoof, and claws with the claw of the hoof, but this one takes not up chewing the cud. This one is unclean to you. Of their meats you shall not eat, and of the meats of their decaying flesh you shall not touch. These are unclean to you. And these you shall eat out of all of the ones in the waters, all as many as there are fins to them and scales living in the waters and in the seas and in the rushing streams, these you shall eat. And all as many as there are not fins to them, nor scales, being in the waters and in the seas and in the rushing streams, of all which bubble the waters, and from every soul living in the water, it is an abomination. And they shall be abominations to you. You shall not eat of their meats, and their decaying flesh you shall abhor. And all as many as there are not fins to them, nor scales, of the ones in the waters, this is an abomination to you. And these you shall abhor from the winged creatures, and shall not be eaten. It is an abomination. The eagle, and the griffin, and the osprey, and the vulture, and kite, and the ones likened to it, and all the crows, and the ones likened to it, and the ostrich, and owl, and gull, and the ones likened to it, and hawk, and the ones likened to it, and long-eared owl, and cormorant, and ibis, and the purple-legged stork, and pelican, and swan, and heron, and curlew, and the ones likened to it, and hoopoe, and bat, and all the crawling things of the winged creatures which go upon 4s is an abomination to you. But these you shall eat from the crawling things of the winged creatures which go upon 4s, which have legs upward from their feet, to spring up with them upon the earth. And you shall eat these from them, the grasshopper, and the ones likened to it, and the hopping locust, and the ones likened to it, and crawling locust, and the ones likened to it, and the locust, and the ones likened to it, and every crawling thing of the winged creatures which are of 4 feet is an abomination to you, and by these you shall be defiled. Every one touching their decaying flesh will be unclean until evening. And every one lifting their decaying flesh shall wash their garments, and shall be unclean until evening. And among all the animals which are cloven hoof, and with cloven-footed claws, and of chewing the cud, does not chew the cud, they shall be unclean to you. Every one touching their decaying flesh will be unclean until evening. And every one which goes upon his hands among all the wild beasts which go upon 4s, it is unclean to you. Every one touching of their decaying flesh will be unclean until evening. And the one lifting of their decaying flesh shall wash his garments, and will be unclean until evening. These shall be unclean to you. And these are unclean to you of the crawling things, of the ones crawling upon the earth, the weasel, and the mouse, and the dry land crocodile, and the ones likened to it, the field mouse, and chameleon, and newt, and lizard, and mole. These are unclean to you from all of the crawling things crawling upon the earth. Everyone touching their decaying flesh will be unclean until evening. And all upon whatever should fall upon it, upon their ones having died, shall be unclean from every wooden item, or garment, or skin, or a sackcloth. Every item in which ever work should be done by it shall be dipped into water, and it shall be unclean until evening, and then it will be clean. And every earthenware item into whatever should fall in from them inside, as much as should be inside, it shall be unclean, and it shall be broken. And every food eaten into whatever water from such a container should come upon it will be unclean to you. And every beverage which is drunk in any such receptacle, it shall be unclean. And all upon whatever should fall from their decaying flesh upon it, it shall be unclean. Ovens and pots with feet shall be demolished. These are unclean, and they shall be unclean to you. Except springs of waters, or a well, or a gathering of water, it will be clean. But the one touching their decaying flesh, it shall be unclean. And if anything should fall from their decaying flesh upon any seed fit for sowing, which shall be sown, it shall be clean. But if water should be poured upon any seed, and their decaying flesh should fall upon it, it is unclean to you. And if one should die of the animals, which this one is allowed for you to eat, the one touching of their decaying flesh will be unclean until evening. And the one eating from their decaying flesh shall wash his garments, and shall be unclean until evening. And the one lifting of their decaying flesh shall wash his garments, and shall bathe in water, and shall be unclean until evening. And every crawling thing which crawls upon the earth, this is an abomination to you, you shall not eat it. And all going upon the belly, and all going upon fours always, which is numerous, in feet, among all the crawling things crawling upon the earth, you shall not eat it, for it is an abomination to you. And no way shall you abhor your souls among all the crawling things crawling upon the earth, and you shall not be defiled by these, and you shall not be unclean by these. For I am the Lord your God, and you shall be sanctified, and you shall be holy. For I, the Lord your God, am holy. And you shall not defile your souls among all the crawling things moving upon the earth. For I am the Lord leading you from out of the land of Egypt to be your God. And you shall be holy, for I, the Lord, am holy. This is the law for the animals and the winged creatures, and all life moving in the water, and all life crawling upon the earth, to distinguish between the unclean and between the clean, and between the ones bringing forth alive, the ones being eaten, and between the ones bringing forth alive, the ones not being eaten.